He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are your Birds 365 Mac and Mac guys, and we are, as we almost always are after an Eagle win, lucky to get Chris Franklin from NJ.com on to talk about the game that has just transpired. And for the first time this year, it's a loss, and we have to talk about it with Chris. All right, Franklin, here's where I want to start. I'm going to put you on the concern/panicometer, okay?
Okay, all right.
If overreaction Tuesday, Chris.
If it's a 10, then your thought is, holy crap, the floodgates have opened. The blueprint is out there. Everyone now knows how to beat the Eagles. This season is screwed. Or a 0, which is, stop it. They're 9-1. They've still got the tiebreaker over the Vikings. They got the best playoff situation of anybody left up. Who cares about the Commanders?
You gave them an extra win, though, Jody. They're only 8-1.
Well, you know how you feel about the Colts game coming up.
But you got a point there. Sorry about that. Thank you.
But
8-1 in 9 games. We know it's somewhere in the middle. It's not a 0. It's not a 10. But where do you fall in between those two diametrically opposite positions?
I think for the near future, if I say for the whole entire future of the whole entire season, I probably say it's 4.
Today,
I think it's 6.
Taken into consideration.
6, because I look at these next couple games from here on out. Well, only because I look at the defense, because I really think that's the best way to meet this Eagles team right now is the best way to do it is to run the ball, which you saw the Commanders do, and it doesn't have to be effective. They literally ran 3 yards in a cloud of dust in a way when you look at the final stats. And all you need to do, and each player to a man admitted this to last night, saying they managed themselves into makeable third down situations by getting a lot of yards on first and second downs. And you look at the way you do this without Jordan Davis in the middle of that defensive line. When you look at the running game, it's impacting them a lot, and you're starting to see that now. So keep that offense on the side, keep running the ball, keep the game close and manageable, and make it to like a fourth quarter game. That's how you beat the Eagles right now.
All right. Well, I hate having to be the positive one, but I'm going to try. I'm going to put it at like a 2. I mean, I agree with you. People, even Houston, they've showed you the blueprint to beat the Eagles. The Commanders, their time of possession, Chris, was 40-24. And, if the Eagles weren't the dumbest team on the planet last night, uncharacteristic, they still win the game. They still win the game because the margin of error is so small when you play the way the Washington Commanders play. Now, give them credit. Hat tip, they got it done. But if that's the way you want to play, that margin of error is really small.
Yeah, and the one thing that really surprised me, especially with that way they're playing, is I thought the Eagles would go back to their own run game because the defense have been out there for such a long time.
Underreported the fact that it didn't run, and they could run. They were effective, and they wouldn't run. Run.
Anytime that Miles Sanders has 2 carries in the first half, I think you got to stop and reevaluate the game plan. And especially being on the field, I think it was like 22 minutes and 22 seconds. The only reason I remember that number specifically because I think it was all the same numbers. Like you can't consistently keep asking your defense to go out there because you saw fourth quarter going to wear down. So you got to at least give your defense a rest by find a way to run the ball, and they had success doing it. It was a big question for me why they didn't sustain it earlier on, but hopefully they learned their lesson now and look forward to it on Sunday.
And the most egregious possession was the one late in the second quarter. John and I kind of went through this earlier. And even at that, Gainwell, wide open, middle of the field, drops the ball. And A.J. Brown on 3rd and 5 slips and falls down. That's not on Jalen Hurts. And, it's going to come back to show up on Steichen's record. The guy's got to make plays. Kenny Gainwell, you got to make the catch. And A.J. Brown, they paid you a lot of money to not fall down. And I know he may have been hurt. He came up limping early in the first quarter. But, that's where it come back and go, how did they not run the ball? Well, if Gainwell makes the catch and or Brown doesn't fall down, they don't need that run the ball with Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on with Brown because it just didn't look right after the first quarter. He went in the locker room, came back out, but it just didn't look right. And you see the impact that he has now because if he's not really rolling it's really wrong. It's almost like you have the Eagles' offensive last year coming back. If he can't really be as effective as
Yeah,
he has
it's
been earlier in the
amazing.
season.
It's amazing how one player on defense, it's Davis, you mentioned, third and manageable. Well, that's why Jordan Davis is there. So first and 10 turns into second and 10. And all of a sudden, third down's not as manageable. With the offense, AJ tweaks his ankle. He's not himself, and the whole offense reverts, as you mentioned, back to last season. It's amazing how one player can make a difference. And what do you pin that on? More coaching, not properly evaluating what you need to do without these particular players. In the case of AJ, was out there, but he wasn't himself. I mean, it was clear he wasn't himself. And they shifted him to more as a decoy in the second half. But do you put it more on coaching or the players? I mean, Quez Watkins, hold on to the damn football. Defense, make a tackle, have a better run fit on occasion. What do you put it more on, Chris?
Between two, I basically put on this one. I put this one on players because when I'm looking at looking back at the overall scheme, there were guys even as not as much time they were not playing on offense. There's guys getting open on that one. And on third down, you have to take the onus of even if it's third and short, you have to win the line of scrimmage. You just have to get enough push. There are times that I think for the first time all year you truly felt these both basically the Eagles defensive line was getting bullied. I mean, there are times when Washington was running that power game and you saw the line was about 2-3 yards downfield already. Like they were back. The defensive line was acting like they were the second level because they were getting pushed back so far. And so I hadn't seen that all year. And when you're looking at that, you just need somebody like his gut check time. We kind of getting beat around. You don't want to basically have your heart taken throughout the most of the games. They basically had their heart taken at times. And listen, I don't know if it was layoff. I don't know if it was just they looked over and because I don't think that offensive line for the Commanders are anything special. I don't know what it was, but they better find a way to get it fixed very, very soon.
All right. So you mentioned the layoff. They have a bye week and then a short week off a bye, which isn't that bad. But then you have another mini bye thereafter. So they're scheduling their timing off, and certainly certain aspects of their game looked like they were off a little bit last night. But now they got a short week, and they got to come right back on Sunday. How much of this lays at the doorstep of the coach? That he's got to know that he's got a group of players that are creatures of habit, that they do things a certain way, that they put X amount of time into. How much pressure on Sirianni this week to make sure that it's not a 2-game losing streak next week against the Colts?
I don't think so. I think he also may have some little inside help. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Frank Reich, how you doing? But I think he'll be okay when it comes to that. I look at the way. I think because short of having an actual game with some of those bye weeks, and then you running the risk of getting hurt themselves. I don't think that. I don't think that a lot of it lies with Sirianni. I think if anything, I think even if the captains, I think on his team, when you look at the veterans they have, I think they're going to basically have a message out there that they need to turn things around too. So it's one of those weeks where you can look as a coach and you just look at the captains and go, you know what to do. So if with this group, not all teams. If I'm looking at the Raiders, I'm just going, I'm out. But I think with this group of guys and that one, so you look at them like, you know what, you know what to do. I don't have to worry. Now, say if they lose like 3 in a row here, it's like, all right, listen, then like red flags going, whatever you have to do to get on William Penn to put something at the top of City Hall going like red alert, whatever you do, then you do that. But otherwise, I think right now it's just like
it is amazing how quickly the psyche turns. Last week everybody's they're going to beat Washington, they're going to beat Indianapolis, Green Bay stinks. Maybe they have a problem with Tennessee. Now it's like, oh, they're going to lose. They can't stop Jonathan Taylor. How are they going to stop Aaron Jones? How are they going to stop Derrick Henry? They are 8-1. I still think it's a good football team by and large, but I do, I I said this to Jody, and I want to get your thoughts on it. They were the most well-rounded team in the NFL over the first 9 weeks of the season. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And this was a well-rounded loss. Everybody contributed. The offense, the defense, the special teams, the coaching staff was awful. Did they just take this team for granted and it finally showed up? Because I think they did.
I don't know if they took them for granted. I really, because I thought a lot of times, like when you see a team, like you just go like, all right, cool. Oh, that's what you see them, the brother-in-law, and where they're going, okay, let's get, hey, what's up, how you doing? Oh, it's not like doing high fives before the game with the team and just relaxing and not coming out that way too. I thought they actually were trying to come out there. I don't think they took them for granted. I think they looked at the game plan. You saw a lot of Devonta. Like I had no problem when it comes to game plan. I think the way the Eagles came out, it didn't look to me like they were just going, well, we showed up on the field. We're just going to take this from here on out. I don't get that sense of that. I think it was just more that they just got if the Commanders were just more physical overall. So I wouldn't put it so much on them being basically just handing over and say, all right, we step on the field, we won the game.
All right, one of the guys I think you got to give at least a nod to. We're kind of bringing all the Eagle guys down a little bit today because they got beat and they deserve it. But a guy who I thought stepped up and gave him a chance last night was Devonta Smith. A.J. Brown wasn't himself. He probably wasn't getting the attention he usually gets. Well, maybe not because of the pass that went through his hands. He was double teamed on. And I thought Jalen threw a perfect ball. And that's one of those luck things that the coach doesn't like to acknowledge. But there was a little bad luck involved there because the ball happened to go through his hands and the defensive player made a good play. But Devonta made a couple of nice catches last night, including a touchdown. And on that Quez Watkins fumble, he was way the hell downfield, and he got his hand on that ball. He had to dive in between two defenders to try and just get his hand on this ball, and he couldn't come up with it. But that was a hell of an effort out of Devonta Smith. He's one guy that I think could actually get up and look himself in the mirror today. How about you?
Well, yeah, he had his birthday. He had the better try to show it out there because the last thing you want to do is walk around going like, well, that one, like, if you walk around like he had a hangover from celebrating the night before. But yeah, I think when you look at, he's one of the guys where you knew this game, in a way, you kind of knew this game was coming for him because you knew that he had the success in week 3. All the talk was out there about, hey, Devonta is not really getting the production that we thought about from you, and the next thing you know, he pops up with a performance like this. I don't know. I know they use a lot of Goddard. You see on third downs, they do that way. I know you got to get A.J. Brown your looks because, hey, he's A.J. Brown. I don't know if it's – and for the life of me, we all know how effective those wide receiver bubble screens are. But you got to find – I think he's one of those guys you have to find a way on your play sheet where you have a corner and say, you know what? If Brown's going slow, just hammer the ball to Smith because he's that type of player. I think he's still a number one wide receiver type guy. You can't, and I know A.J. Brown there, he's relegated basically to number 2, but he's still that type of guy. You have to get him the ball somehow. And I just look at it, I just don't. I wish I knew how to do it. I know they have the other options, but at the risk of maybe say, hey, Zach Pascal, those 3-4 that we want to try to get you. Quez, at this point in the season, Quez, we know we take a shot or two downfield, but you know what? Maybe we should funnel these more to Devonta more to get even more balance, take some of that pressure off of AJ.
Speaking of wide receiver ones, Chris, Terry McLaurin, kind of Eagles killer at this point. I think it's fair to call him that.
Yeah.
The Eagles play the same coverage as every week. Quarters, cover 2, cover 6, blah, blah, blah. Same stuff. Why no communication? Because Terry McLaurin's running wide open. And it's not like the Eagles don't know he exists. Basically, the Commanders' offense was run the football and throw it to Terry McLaurin. That was it. That was the plan. Why the communication issues in week 10? And they've been good for the most part.
And that is a little concerning. Like one thing I know, like some of them, I'll give credit to Washington's offensive coordinator because it was Gannon showed some tendencies on certain downs, and it looked like they were running like either when they were running cover 3 or the cover 6 look. Best way to do is a man beater to beat that is to do a crossing, and he ran it a couple of times. And I'm shocked Terry McLaurin really could have had about 200 yards receiving if they had some time and they dedicated themselves to the passing game, because he was running wild through some of those empty parts of the zone. But I look at, if anything, I probably put that on. That has to be better communication between the safeties, the safety level, and that linebacker level too, and just passing it off. Because when I know that it looked like a couple of times, and I have to go back and watch this for I guess the third, fourth time just to get the details. It looked like they passed it off and just like, oh, you got this. Don't worry about this. Yeah, you get this. I like that they're disguising some things, doing some different things they didn't done all year, which you would hope they would do, especially seeing a new quarterback and doing some stuff. And whatever disguises they had planned up, they surely didn't. I don't know if it's just like, hey, you know what? Oh, I got this. We're veterans. Well, I don't. You should know this by now. It's like second nature, but it's definitely not second nature now. It's and I don't know how you fix it. Honestly, like even this late, you can still work and say, oh, you got to talk, but. Yeah, but I guess when in the middle of the flow of the season, you start really going, and you are what you are.
Yeah, I know my partner's what his response would be to this question, but I need yours, Mr. Franklin. Not only last night was the first Eagle loss of the season, it was also the first divisional loss of the season, and right now they are only one game ahead of the nearest competitor in the division. That would be the New York Giants, who they still have to play twice this year. That 24 hours, 36 hours ago, we were thinking, all right, the Eagles are going to cruise to a divisional championship. Should the Eagles be nervous because there is legit competition in the division as of right now?
The division, no. I still.
You're dismissing the Giants much like John McMullen is what you're telling me.
I look at that one too. Even if they split this year, even if they go up to MetLife and lose, they win back down here. Even if they split, I look at this Eagles team, and it's just different. The same way, at least with the Commanders, you had 2, maybe 3 receivers. You're like, all right, cool. That was it. With the Giants, you're just like, okay, Saquon. Okay, Saquon.
The Commanders came in 4-5 last night. The Giants at 7-2, big guy. You got to check the standings here, my man.
Come on, 4-5. Washington's now a playoff threat. Come on.
Look who they had a quarterback at the beginning of the year. That answers a whole lot of questions.
That's one of the Giants.
Giants are a playoff threat. Yeah.
I seriously would not be surprised because the 49ers, they're getting so injured. I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders are in it. It's a long haul where they're in a conversation probably till week 16, 17. So it's like it could be. I still think there's a chance that all these teams from the division will make the playoffs. It's basically
what term did you use, Jody? Did scared of the Giants? I mean, I wouldn't be scared of the Giants. I give them credit for being, but I mean, if you're the Eagles, I don't think you'd be scared of the Giants. Now that doesn't mean they can't crap the bed like they did against Washington and lose a game. But I don't think.
And if they lose that game, the division could go by the wayside.
I don't think the Giants match up well with the Eagles. Now, we're coming off the first loss of the season.
Hold on. Based on what?
What? Based on some of the things Chris just said. Who the hell's catching the football from Daniel Jones, by the way, as the quarterback? Brian Daboll's done a tremendous job. I think if you go down the roster, I think you'd say the Eagles have a better roster than the Giants.
I thought the Eagles had a better roster last night and they didn't win.
Well, I mean, the best team doesn't always win in the NFL. We talk about the Chiefs have lost, but we've been through this. Everybody's lost. Now the Eagles have lost. Everybody loses in this league. It doesn't mean that particular team pulling off the upset. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody the Washington Commanders are better than the Eagles. The Eagles beat themselves yesterday.
That's true.
And they had plenty of chance. Even with all the time of possession, Chris, they never had the football. They still should have won the game because they're so much more talented than the Commanders. They just had a bad game. It happens.
Imagine if they balanced it out. Say if in that first half, if it was like split half and half. The Eagles had the ball for 15 minutes and the Commanders had the ball 15 minutes. I think the Eagles have put put up a lot more points. I think they put at least 10 more points, and then you're all of a sudden talking that way too.
Miles Sanders runs it 10 times. They're probably up by 10 points.
All right, I'm ready to reevaluate my word. You're right, because fear was a poor choice of words on my part. I don't think the Eagles should fear anybody. Giants, Vikings, Cowboys, anybody in the NFC. I don't even think they should fear the Bills and the Chiefs or anybody from the Dolphins from the AFC. Respect is the better word. Should the Eagles show the proper respect to the 7-2 New York Giants? That's the question I'm asking.
I think they will, no matter what, because the division, especially the way, and they still don't forget the Eagles still had that in mind, that loss up in MetLife, that very much so from last year. You know, that one, that was one of the uglier ones. The losses they saw last year.
That was Jalen Hurts' worst.
That was
game.
Hurts just threw in an absolute stone cold clunker.
Yeah.
And I don't care how much.
And even that one, John said it now a couple times today, and I can tell we disagree. He says they should have won the game. I would say last night they could have won the game. Oh, last year they should have won the game if that ball gets caught that Hurts throws into the end zone late, and they just can't come down with the catch. They had no right winning that game, but they actually should have won it because they dropped the pass late in the game. As bad as Jalen was for the entire game, if they make the catch in the end zone in the fourth quarter, they end up winning that football game.
Yeah.
I just look at the way there's going to be so many times where you have games like that, and I still think I really don't put this on. In those sense where I don't put this on the offense at all this game. I think I look at squarely defense.
See, I now I'm all right. Let's put a percentage. I'll give it to both you guys.
Yeah,
because I think, as I said, this was a well-rounded loss. I still go. I'm with you. I'll go defense more than offense, but I think the offense stunk up the joint, except for, really Jalen Hurts and Miles. I thought Miles played well. I thought Jalen, and by the way, the offensive line, most of the individual players were okay, but I thought the plan was awful. I thought the game plan was awful. And that has not been the case with this coaching staff. To me, that was the first time all year the Eagles were significantly outcoached, which was a surprise to me. So I'll put all three categories. And if you want to throw special teams in there, make it 4. But I want to put coaching, offense, defense. Where would you go? More. Give me percentages.
Defense, I'm putting 70%. I can't get around that because I really just look at that, the way that they were, the inability to come off the field, the third downs I still can't believe at one clip they're converting 80% of their third downs, and so they button some of that stuff up. So I put 70% on them. I'll put 10% on the offense because I think they should have ran the ball more with Sanders, and then 20% I put in special teams because. Just imagine if Sipos didn't pull that ball back and punt, how much more we're talking about as well.
What the heck was Kayvon Wallace doing on that?
Yeah, that's what was he doing? Sipos. That's on Wallace for missing that block. I think he made the right play. I think if he tries to get the kickoff, I think he gets blocked.
I don't get started. I'm in my Zen mode right now. If I start going Kayvon Wallace mode right now, I still don't. I think you guys know my feelings about him when it comes to that. I just don't know what he was seeing.
I've never seen anything like that. He's personal protected guys right in front of his space. He lets them just waltz into the punter.
Chris, are you telling us you are to Kayvon Wallace what our buddy Bob Groats is to Bradbury? Are you a hater? Are you a hater? Is that what you're telling us? I never even knew that. You've kept that well under wraps there, buddy. You're copping to a crime I didn't know you had committed.
I look at all the way through camp, and I was a huge Kayvon Wallace guy. He came in, but I looked through all the way through camp. You can't cover an open space. I mean, you look at the Houston Texans. That touchdown he gave up against the Houston Texans. It's tougher to cover. He's not a good cover guy. Special teams, he does okay when it comes to covering on tackles. He does. I'll give him that. But when you look at that, when you look at some of the decisions he makes, I'm shocked more teams when they use that 3 safety package. I'm shocked that teams will go, "Where's 42? He's right there. Okay, that's whoever's just throw the ball that vicinity. I don't care what it is because you know you're gonna get a penalty or you know you're gonna get completion. That's where I'm at.
Kayvon Wallace only played 6 snaps from scrimmage last night, and he had one of the best tackles of the entire game. Stopped the guy. Shockingly, an Eagle who stops the guy at the point of attack rather than let him fall forward. Yeah, you're being completely unfair to Kayvon Wallace. He's never going to talk to you again, Franklin, nor should he. With the way
Never
you're
talk to me anyway.
the way you're taking him down today. All right, since we won't have you on before the game, we're going to speculate. John and I are going to do this next 3 days. Is this an eye-opening learn from their lessons lost? Or is this the beginning of here's the blueprint to beat the Eagles going forward Sunday in Indianapolis? Eagles winning or losing, Franklin?
I think the Eagles win. It's going to be a little uncomfortable again because I think Salem native. Since I work for NJ.com, I had to point to Salem native.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, I think he looks healthier again. I was watching some of that game from last week. He looks like Jonathan Taylor again. And the way I look overall, I think some of the little notes that Frank knows about some of these guys, what they don't like and like, come into the game plan and it helps out. And I think the Eagles win, but I think it's going to be. I didn't see the line this morning. I know I got an early email a couple of days ago saying the opening line was 9.5. I would be surprised if the Eagles win by like maybe 6 or 7.
Fair enough, Chris. Always a pleasure, and thank you very much for coming on after game day, specifically after night games, because we know you got to get up early. But McMullen gets up early, so you can get up early too. It was easy for me. I was in bed by 12:30, so it wasn't all that taxing for me. But thank you for getting up with us.
What time did you get to bed, Chris?
I get to bed. I went to bed about 4:30.
Yeah. Oh, you're kidding me!
I was 4:25. I beat you by 5 minutes.
Holy!
Oh man! I gotta get that. Like, I get the film viewing in, and then after that, then you walk like a zombie the rest of the day. But hey, it's worth it.
You guys truly are warriors. I was in bed by 12:30. See you later. Bye. Sorry about that. All right, well, get to bed early tonight, Franklin. Thanks for getting up early with us this morning. We'll talk to you next week after the Eagles and the Colts.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Chris Franklin, NJ.com, and we